Are dealerships bad? Are motorcycle shops against you? What's up, guys? It's Alex. First off, sorry it's been a few days. I had to go do some National Guard duty stuff. That took a while. I'm back. We're rolling on. So I've noticed kind of a big trend and a big divide in the motorcycle community, both online and in my area, regarding motorcycle shops / motorcycle dealers, whatever you want to call them. I call them motorcycle shops because I'm kind of a little bit old school like that. If you got big ones, call them motorcycle dealer, whatever you want to call it. Seems like there's a large group of people who are perfectly okay with dealers and motorcycle shops. And there's a huge group of people who think that if you buy a bike from or you deal with a motorcycle dealer or shop whatsoever, you're getting ripped off, you're just wasting your money, they're all crooks, they're stealerships is the word that I've heard, okay? So I'm going to talk for a few minutes about that. Stick with me to the end and get the whole thing, and then I would love to hear your opinions on the subject in the comments below, okay? So first off, you probably already know, or maybe you could tell, I work for a motorcycle shop. I'm the sales manager of a decently large motorcycle dealer. That being said, I don't consider it to be like a motorcycle superstore or any kind of big dealership thing like that. I still consider it to be a motorcycle shop. It's a family-owned business, and to me, it's just kind of like an overgrown mom-and-pop motorcycle shop, okay? That being said, what I'm going to be talking about here is buying basically used bikes from a dealer versus an individual and kind of the pros and cons there, and really why I don't think that most motorcycle shops are against you. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why some of them might be a little bit, but to me, most motorcycle shops are not against you, not just because I work for one. I used to be in the restaurant industry, and I rode bikes when I wasn't, and I loved my local dealer because they were just a cool, down-to-earth little motorcycle shop, and there were a lot of reasons why they were super helpful to me, especially early on. So, getting into it, obviously if you're buying a new bike or a new power sports vehicle whatsoever, you kind of have to deal with a dealership. You can't get a new one from just an individual, so that's a thing. When it comes to used, you've got the choice. You can either go buy a used bike or look at used bikes at a shop or a dealer, or you can go look at used bikes from private individuals, Craigslist, Facebook, eBay, whatever, okay? Here's the pros and cons of both of those scenarios, and then I'll get into what makes a good dealer and a bad dealer and why dealerships are not necessarily against you. So you're buying a bike from an individual. Most of the time, you're going to get the bike a little bit cheaper. That's just reality. That's the way it is, and that's fine. I have bought bikes from individuals. Obviously, I've bought bikes from shops as well. Usually from an individual, you can get a bike a little bit cheaper. With some bikes, that's not necessarily the case. In our area, if you try to buy, a used 600cc sport bike, you're usually going to pay just as much to an individual as you do a dealer because they're just not easy to come by here. People don't give them up easily. So when they're on Craigslist, usually they're asking just as much as dealers do for that kind of bike. But generally speaking, you can get a used bike from just an individual cheaper than you can from a dealership. The trade-off there is if you're buying a used bike from an individual, most of the time you're going to have cash. So if you're looking at a $5,000, $6,000 bike, $3,000, $10,000, whatever the price range is, if you're buying a bike from an individual on Craigslist or wherever, you're generally going to have cash. Whereas with a dealership, if you don't have that much cash, usually a dealership can get you financed on a bike. And if you have decent credit, usually for pretty good interest rates and stuff like that, if they're a good, straightforward dealer, okay? So pros and cons, one, you can get a bike cheaper from an individual, but you're going to have to pay cash 99% of the time unless you've already got your own bank and you can work out some kind of crazy thing where your bank will actually finance the bike coming from an individual, which most banks won't. With a dealership, you're usually going to spend a little bit more money, but they can finance you if you need it, okay? Second major talking point on this. If you're buying from a private party individual, you need to know bikes and you need to know what to look for specifically on the bike that you're looking at. So if you're buying it from an individual, you have no guarantees with it. You have no recourse. You have really no one to go back to if you have an issue with the bike. Most of the time you buy a bike from an individual, unless they're a friend of yours, once you're done with that transaction, they are going to disappear, pixie dust, gone. And if you have any issues with the bike, that's on you. On the other hand, if you buy a used motorcycle from a dealer or a shop, at least a good reputable one anyway, you're going to spend a little bit more money, but generally they've already fixed the things that need to be fixed on it, or at least if you have an issue with it right after the sale, you have a place to go to and someone to hold accountable for the fact that there are issues with that bike. They may or may not be upstanding enough and cool enough to fix them for you if they're a crappy dealer. If they're a good dealer and you have a problem right off the bat, they're going to help you fix it for reputation alone. If they're a crappy dealer, they may not, but at least you know where to go and you know who to complain to and who to go after if you've been sold a crappy shit pile of a motorcycle, okay? And the last thing is if you buy something private party, you're going to be going and doing your own taxes, your own tag, your own title work, and all that nonsense. You're standing in a lot of lines, you're doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Depending on where you are, DMVs are a pain in the butt, okay? If you buy from a dealer, majority of dealers, at least if you live in that area, are required to do your title and registration, all that stuff for you, so you don't have that hassle. I mean, it might be a small thing. You're still paying for it either way, but at least if you buy it from a dealer and they do it for you, you don't have to go stand in the lines and deal with all that crap. So those are just a few brief differences between the two. Now here's my thoughts on the matter. Most good motorcycle shops are not bad and are not against you. If your shop is run by and is staffed by people who ride and who are passionate about it, then the reason that they're doing it is probably because they're passionate about it and it was a way for them to live and work in their passion. Most motorcycle dealers and most people that work for motorcycle shops don't make a lot of money, okay? I work for a motorcycle shop. I've got a lot of buddies that work in the car industry. They make a lot more money than I do dealing with cars, but they don't like it as much as I do. I used to be in restaurants. I do this now. I have a lot of other things that I could do to make more money, but I continue to do this because I love motorcycles and I love doing this and I love helping people like you guys. So a lot of your shops out there, if they are run by and staffed by people that love to ride and just love motorcycles, then they're probably doing it for the love of it. And they're probably going to be good, helpful, upstanding people to deal with. If your local dealership or your local shop is not run by people that ride and is not staffed by people that ride, then yeah, maybe that one is just out to make the money, and maybe that's not the best one to be dealing with. My advice to you guys would be, if you know bikes and you know you can get it cheaper and you just want to deal with private individuals, go for it. Shops are here, most of us, to help you and support you and have parts for you to fix your stuff with, have mechanics to fix your stuff if you can't, and to sell you bikes if you just want to buy a more solid bike and spend a little bit more money, but know you're getting something good, okay? What's up, Shorty?
Morning.
So that's all there is to it, guys. Motorcycle shops really don't make a whole lot on the bikes themselves. We make enough to get by. As long as I can make a living and feed my family, that's all I really care about, and do something that I love, and I love motorcycles. So majority of motorcycle shops are not against you. They're not evil. They're not bad. They're just trying to make enough to make a living doing it and to have somewhere for you to go and be supported riding motorcycles. If you hate dealerships, cool. If you like dealerships, cool. I just want to talk about it for a few minutes because I get a lot of comments back and forth, like people hating dealerships and loving dealerships and all kind of different stuff. And there's a huge divide in the community with people that either like shops and are cool with shops, like to hang out there and think that people are cool, versus people that just think that shops are the devil and think they're just there to rip them off. Most of us are not here to rip you off. There are some bad dealers out there. There's bad apples in anything you get into. So there are some bad dealers out there, and if you're dealing with someone, or if you have an experience with a bad dealer, just don't deal with them anymore. Go find you a better shop. Find a shop that's run by people that ride and who love to ride and that love riders, okay? That's all there is to it. Peace.